Welcome back to the Sooner Saloon. I'm here with Emerson Campbell, and we're going to give you a little breakdown of what we saw the Oklahoma and Utep game, kind of a reactionary video here. But first, be sure to like and subscribe if you guys are diehard Oklahoma football fans, as we are. So, Emerson, there's some positives, there's some negatives. What do you want to talk about first? I'm going to leave that up to you.
I guess we can start with the offense. For the most part, they looked really good today. When people said, when Jeff Lebby came on and people started talking about his hurry-up offense, I expected it to be somewhat similar to like 2008 and 9 when they were really using the no huddle offense, the fast pace offense, all the time. But I mean, this was a new level. They were snapping the ball on a fresh set of downs before the chain gang could even get there. Sometimes, I mean, it was literally like as fast as possible as far as game pace, especially starting off like straight out of the gate. Dylan Gabriel looked really good, looked really comfortable. He spread it all over the field. There were 7 guys that got receptions today. Braden Willis. Well, I guess with Dylan Gabriel, he was accurate on a lot of his passes. His timing looked really good, and it seemed like he had good chemistry with a lot of people. Braden Willis had a breakout game. It's safe to say that him and Gabriel have a pretty good chemistry, pretty good relationship already. And it was happy to see him, get 2 touchdowns and really become the player and take that first step in becoming the guy in the tight end room as far as catching. And he had a really good day blocking too.
He did.
On that Gavin Freeman run, which shout out to Gavin Freeman. Great for him, local kid. Did he have? I think he was a preferred walk-on. He didn't get a full scholarship. He makes a huge play.
He's a walk-on at Oklahoma City.
Yeah. I couldn't remember if it was OKC or Tulsa, but yeah. So happy for him. But on that play, Braden Willis blocked 3 dudes. So
yeah, he took out 2 guys at one time.
Yeah, he took out 2 guys, and then he ran downfield with Gavin and blocked another guy right before he got in the end zone. So, Braden Willis looks like he's really good. Theo Weiss looked like he was pretty comfortable today, coming back from the foot injury that he had that kept him out all of last year. So happy to see that. Eric Gray, I thought he looked better running the ball between the tackles. So obviously he looks good in space. He looks good when he's catching the ball out of the backfield. So that wasn't an issue. But running through the tackles, I thought he looked good. He made smart decisions. One thing I will say about the running game, it seemed like the offensive line wasn't as dominant as I would have liked them to be. Granted, Wanye Morris did not play this game. He'll be out. He was out for this game, and he'll be out for next week against Kent State. He should return for Nebraska, from what we're hearing. So Tyler Guyton filled in at left tackle. So that could be a part of it, but there were some plays where it seemed like they weren't getting off the ball that well, and they weren't maintaining blocks for a very long time. And nothing's going to be perfect, but it seemed like there was a lot of times where Eric Gray didn't have a lot of room to work in between the tackles. So that's one thing I would like to see. What are your thoughts on the offense?
Well, offensively, I think on a perfect day, my ideal win over Utep, it would have been Dylan Gabriel has 300 yards, he has 3 touchdowns, and his completion rating was 70% or above. That was my ideal of perfect in my mindset going into this game, and I think it was right on track. He had 233 yards passing. He had 3 total touchdowns, 2 throwing to Braden Willis, which we already kind of hit on. But he also had a rushing touchdown as well, and he had a 65% completion rating, which, hey, it's week 1, and that's where you want to be. Eric Gray also looked well in this game. He's gained, I think, about 15 pounds, and that's going to help him running in between tackles. He had 102 yards rushing. He also had a big 24-yard reception that set up Braden Willis on that possession. And OU looked really well, in that first half. I think we were up 21-0 at one point, and offense was clicking, going very fast pace. And I think we had close to 250 yards total in that first half, which was very impressive. Seemed like that we did stall out a little bit, but like we said, it's week one. We're not going to go all out on schemes and showing all of our play calling against Utep. That's just as simple as it gets. Like you said, Braden Willis had a career day. He had 2 touchdowns for about 40 yards total today, and the stat sheet simply doesn't show what he was capable of in the blocking schemes. This was kind of a worry in the offseason. Some said, Daniel Parker's going to be your blocking tight end. I didn't see any Daniel Parker. I saw Braden Willis making plays, receiving, and in the blocking game. Gavin Freeman takes a 47-yard reverse play and does a hell of a job breaking a couple tackles, giving a stiff arm, getting to the end zone, and that's a hell of a day and one to remember when that's your first collegiate carry and it's been your dream to play at the University of Oklahoma. And that's just kind of the thing too, Emerson. All offseason, it's been, reestablishing the heart and soul of what it means to be, a part of this Oklahoma football program. And you see that in the coaching staff, you see that in the players, and you can see it when they score or when they do something great. And just a couple examples, that Gavin Freeman touchdown, everybody was on his hat. Everybody. And then when Gentry Williams gets that pick at the very end of the game, Jay Valai was in his face preaching to him, and that made me so happy because OU finally has a defensive backs coach that cares, and it's just it rubs off from the coaching staff to the players as well. So that was really my big offensive takeaways on the positive side there. Negatives, I do agree. Offensive line could have played well, more, effectively. Gave up some hits on Dylan Gabriel, and I think there was about 3 false starts that really got us. That could have set us up for a little bit more points there. But it's week one. You're going to have those flaws. Everybody's chomping at the bit to get on the field. But yeah, that's what I got for offensive productiveness on today's game against UTEP.
Yeah. One thing I will say we didn't touch on, we saw Marvin Mims get involved early.
Yes.
And that allowed the offense to just flow that much easier. I think Dylan Gabriel and Jeff Lebby had the same idea. Get the ball in playmakers' hands as early and often as possible. And that's what they did between Gray, Mims, and Braden Willis. So that was just another. Finally, shout out, because that was what we talked about last year all the time was why isn't Marvin Mims getting the ball, So
exactly. And kind of my ideal thing was I want to see one guy in the receiving corps get 100 yards. Marvin Mims was right on track. He had about 80. So that's fully acceptable, and he will be utilized a lot more this season. You can already tell. But let's get on to defensive positives. Maybe a little bit of defensive negatives, Emerson. I want to hear your take about what you saw specifically on defense today.
Yeah, so I thought the defensive line got after it pretty well, pretty good. Reggie Grimes has definitely added some weight. He looks like a guy that's going to be very effective rushing the passer. He didn't have a huge day as far as statistics, but he was in the backfield often. He was putting pressure on the quarterback. He was chasing down plays from the backside. Looked like he was pretty good at setting the edge when they were trying to run to his side. So Reggie Grimes looked good. The defensive line as a whole looked pretty good. Jalen Redmond, when he was getting run, he was getting in the backfield. Jordan Kelly had a big play early, big run stuff early that he was pretty jacked up about. So I think the depth on the defensive line is it might be better than we anticipated, especially after losing four linemen to the NFL. It looks like they kind of picked up right where they left off, and they didn't stunt as much. There were a couple stunts, but they were stunting when it was an obvious passing situation, whereas in years past, it seemed like they were stunting almost every single play.
Yeah.
And while, yes, stunting is good for getting the offensive line off balance, it also messes with the run fits. And it's hard to stop the run when the guys on the front line are, not maintaining their gap because they're not playing that gap. They're playing a stunt. So I like that. I like the use of a stunt. I like the use of the stunts when it seemed like at good times. Linebackers played pretty well. Deshaun White looked really good in that cheetah position, nickel position, whatever you want to call it. It looked like he was smart, and it looked like people were reading and reacting a lot faster. The processing
Much
speed
better.
of everyone.
Yes, much better than previous years.
Yes, they weren't stuck, frozen for a half a second, thinking about, oh, well, this just happened. I need to do this. They knew their assignments. They, even in the secondary, they switched off on crossing routes and things like that. Well, they understood their assignments. I'd like to see a little bit tighter coverage. It seemed like they got kind of sloppy a couple times where Utep was able to march down the field and put some points on the board. They were able to get some pretty good passing plays in that. But other than that, I mean, the processing speed and just the aggressiveness and the team tackling of the defense looked really good. And I thought the tackling was a lot better in space as well.
I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Just kind of a fun stat to throw out there. There was 24 days straight that this defense practiced inside run, which is front seven guys against offensive line and running backs, fullbacks, tight ends. And it showed because they're a lot more physical. They're a lot more violent. You saw Danny Stutzman coming up and making huge hits. You saw David Igwebu coming up and making hits. And it's not the type of hits where, there's contact between the running back and, Stutzman or Igwebu and he gets an extra yard. He's stopped in his tracks and he's brought to the ground, which is very impressive. We haven't seen this, in the past years. Another guy who stood out to me, Billy Bowman. He led the team with 9 tackles today. And we've been preached all offseason on, his progression on, what it means to be at that safety spot in a solidified position where he's not bouncing around at corner, nickel back, safety. He's in his position and he looks, primed as a sophomore. He looks very incredible. He was a big threat in return game. It looked like he was 1 to 2 cuts away from breaking a couple kickoff returns. He had 2 pass deflections, and it looked like he was just so close to having a one-handed interception that would have been a great highlight reel. You mentioned Reggie Grimes. He had a huge sack to end that first half to put Utep out of field goal range, and I think he looked like our most productive pass rusher on that defense, getting 2.5, 3 sacks. So that was huge. And it's really, you can't express enough how good that front seven looked. I do agree with you that secondary could use a little help as far as 5-yard stop routes, seams that are going up the middle 5 yards. But the thing is, they were stopped in their tracks. There was not a lot of run after catch. It was a lot of dinking and dunking downfield. And, they were held to 13 points. That's where I thought that it would be at. It was about 13, and nothing over that would be great in my eyes. And I was very thrilled that that's where they landed. And also, you have to take for granted we're not running a whole lot of schemes. We're in our base defense. We're not switching it up because you have Nebraska in 2 weeks. You have big games coming up where you don't want to show all your cards. So that's just a thing to take in mind. I think a lot of fans might be a little weary on that secondary, but it's week 1. They will progress. Trust this defense. Trust these coaches.
Yeah, I agree. They say the biggest improvement usually happens from week 1 to week 2, and like you said, how many concepts has Brent Venables installed on this defense that they haven't even ran yet? Because like you said, we have more bigger fish to fry. You don't want to look ahead. Obviously, the next game's Kent State, and you don't want to overlook that opponent. But Nebraska coming up, Texas, K-State is going to be good.
Exactly.
So we have. It's never a bad idea to keep some things in the back pocket. So, but yeah, I think Reggie Grimes, like you said, he could probably be the best pass rusher we have. His length is so good. I saw Laulu get in there getting reps. I mean, Isaiah Coe. There's a. I don't know. Just talking about the defensive line depth again. It seems like we have a pretty solid 2, if not 3 deep at each of the 4 positions.
I want to say Josh Ellison looked good. Isaiah Coe made some plays. Those guys stepped up, and it was nice to see because I agree. I think we have a lot of depth at that position.
Yeah. And like you said, David Agwebu looked really good. David Agwebu, it seems like they finally have guys in the right positions. Mm-hmm. Like I said, Deshaun White, he looked way more comfortable out in space, out in the open field than I would have expected. But that's Brent Venables identifying his talents and his niche in the defense and putting him there. Same with David Agwebu. He's been the biggest linebacker on the team for 3 years.
Right.
And he's finally playing in the box at Mike and stuffing runs and driving his feet and not letting running backs fall forward. And same with Danny Stutzman. Those 2 guys looked really comfortable on the inside. They shedded blocks well. I didn't see them get caught up in traffic very often because UTEP did run it to the outside a decent amount. So
here's another
it just
thing.
Seems
Emerson.
like they have, and like you said with Billy Bowman, they have people in the right spots on the defense where it works.
Here's another thing. UTEP ran the ball 31 times. Okay, they got 28 yards out of it. That says something about your front 7. Okay, they are very fluid and they're very physical. They are violent, and that's something that has been preached over this off season. So I'm just saying these guys are up to speed, and it's BV's defense moving forward.
Yeah. And Ted Roofs, I guess, or TD Roof, whichever one the dad is. I always get messed up.
Ted Roof.
But Ted Roof, yeah.
I do the same thing. 2 roofs.
They both start with a T and end with a D, so it's like,
exactly,
dude. But the defense looked good. Special teams, I thought was solid.
Yeah, Zach Schmidt didn't miss a field goal. That's what you need out of your special teams. So
yeah. Overall, really good performance. You can't be mad when Oklahoma wins by 42 points and covers the spread. It's always a good day. So good teams win, great teams cover, as they say. So yeah, Oklahoma looked good, took care of business, and football season is in full swing. It's here, baby. It's a lot of fun.
Exactly, and just expect this team and these coaches, to progress all season long because that's what Oklahoma does. So, with that being said, we will have a preview video for Kent State coming out. Be sure to check that out, and don't forget to like and subscribe. With that being said, Boomer Sooner, and catch us next video.
Boomer.